Hey, welcome to World Entertainment. And if you've heard about this movie, which was announced quite a while ago actually, Francis Ford Coppola's new mega sci-fi movie called Megalopolis, it's apparently going to struggle to even get distributed. Because apparently the studios have looked at it and went, there's no possible way we are putting money into marketing this thing. Francis Ford Coppola has addressed this now and is kind of comparing it to Apocalypse Now, the situation around that. The difference though is there's a massive difference because it's a completely different timeline in terms of how much money was put into Apocalypse Now and how much studios were going to have to pay to promote the thing and then put it out there compared to now. Now this movie is financed basically fully by Francis Ford Coppola. It was meant, from what we were all hearing, it was meant to be incredibly expensive, which is why he financed it himself. That studios and other places were just kind of going, no, we do not want to invest in this. Reports are coming out now that it actually only cost, even though it's still a massive amount, 120 million. Now, other reports that was out a while ago, a good few months ago, were indicating that it had gone massively over budget. Don't know about that. There's nothing about that currently. And the movie's meant to have this massive cast. As Adam Driver, Shia LaBeouf is in it, Morgan Freeman, a bunch of other names, Oscar Isaac, Kate Blanchett, James Caan, all these people. But we're going to have a look at this because it's interesting, especially when you hear what the studio heads have said about it in terms of whether it's even worth putting money into to try and invest. Because everything coming from them doesn't sound particularly good. So let's have a look at this. So Francis Ford Coppola recently responded to the doubts regarding the distribution prospects of his new project, Megalopolis. In an interview with the Daily Beast, Coppola remains undeterred, drawing parallels to the initial reception of his iconic Apocalypse Now. Coppola responded by saying, "There were very contradicting reviews expressed, but the audience never stopped going to see the film. And to this day, Apocalypse Now is still in very profitable distribution. I am sure this will be the same situation with Megalopolis. It will stand the test of time." So he's trying to say they had mixed reactions with Apocalypse Now, and it ended up being a massive hit and stuff. But again, it's completely different to you're spending however much Apocalypse Now was made for. I can't remember. It's not up in the 100 millions anyway, and the studio probably weren't paying 100 million to promote the thing, where this is the case of if the budget is and stuck to that 120 million, then you're looking at the studio adding to that again of another 100, maybe even the 120 million to promote the thing. And here is what some of the studio heads have said. Now apparently this was from Netflix. For whatever reason he brought it to Netflix, like he's demanding an IMAX release. So why he brought it to Netflix is unknown, but he brought it to Netflix. I think Sony, Universal I think was the other one, and a couple of others. So here is what some of the quotes from these people have said. The first one says, "There's just no way to position this movie." Another one reads, "Everyone is rooting for Francis and feels nostalgic, but then there is the business side of things. I find it hard to believe any distributor would put up cash money and stay in first position to recoup the P&A as well as their distribution fee. How do you define commercial? You look at movies like Blade Runner and it became so much more commercial than on opening weekend. So there's one kind of saying, maybe we should just invest and see what happens. What they have to remember about Blade Runner was a commercial bomb. That thing bombed at the box office. Then only very later on, years later, start getting that cult following. That's when that movie became successful. It failed in the cinemas. And this one is the one that's really scathing on this. This one reads, it's so not good. And it was so sad watching it. Anybody who puts P&A behind it, you're going to lose money. This is not how Coppola should end his directing career. That one is the harshest one out of it, where they flat out are saying the movie is not good. It was depressing to watch it, obviously, because they're saying it's just so bad. You felt sad and depressed for Coppola, thinking, dude, he put his own money into this thing and it's a disaster. That is what that is saying. So I don't know exactly what is going to happen with this movie. And to be honest, it sounds like it's going to be yet another mega budget movie that Adam Driver is going to lead that's going to fail. If someone even picks it up to actually put it on the big screen. Like, this thing could end up just being put on Apple TV or Amazon, or because Netflix have said no to it, clearly. But, and again, he is saying he wants it 100% to be in IMAX theaters. Like, that's quite pushing the envelope there. If these people, heads of studios and stuff, are going, look, the movie's just not good, it's terrible, and we would lose our money to put that thing out there, we would never make our money back. That's quite telling. So it's going to be very interesting to see what actually happens with this movie. I think I heard and saw somewhere that it's meant to be getting a premiere or a screening or something at Cannes. Whether that's happened yet or whether that's coming up, I can't remember. But we'll see what happens there. Or maybe that's even where he screened it for these studio heads. But either way, it's not looking good for this movie. He sold, by the way, how he financed it, he sold his entire wine collection apparently to get the funding to make this thing. And I can't even remember what the last movie that dude even directed was. It's been that long. It doesn't sound like it's gonna be a big hit for him. And if they're trying to compare it with Blade Runner, well, then you're looking at a disaster on the big screen, and a few years later starts to get a bit popular. We'll have to wait and see exactly what happens with this one, but it's an interesting one to keep an eye on. So with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.